Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Yurt. And as usual, we're covering everything from UFOs, conspiracies, maybe even a little cryptid from here and there. You know, that's what I'm into, the Bigfoot stuff, right? But lately, you can't ignore what's being disclosed to the public for the first time in decades about what people are seeing in the skies. We're talking UFOs, UAP, orbs, and such. People are seeing it all. You know, I think we're one mothership away from Independence Day. You feel me? So I know this may sound far-fetched to some of you, depending on how your algorithms are set up, your timelines across your social media platforms. But, you know, I'm into all of the mystery. So I feel like it's my job to let you guys know that reality is getting a little more special every day. Life is starting to look more and more like a little Rick and Morty. So real quick, guys, what we're going to be talking about is this Ross Coultharts character, man. He is an investigative journalist, an amazing investigative journalist. He's an author, multi-award winning investigative journalist with over 3 decades experience in newspapers and television, which includes reporting on the Sydney Morning Herald newspaper, ABC TV Four Corners, 9 Network Sunday program, and 60 Minutes. He's on 60 Minutes, as well as 7 Network Sunday Night. 5 times winner of Australia's National Journalism Prize, the Walkley Award, including the highest award, the Gold Walkley. Winner of a Logie, Australian TV's top prize for Best Public Affairs TV reporting, and winner of New York Film Festival Gold Medal for International Investigative Journalism. He's a best-selling author of 5 books, including Dead Man Running and Above the Law, Investigations into the Outlaw Motorcycle Gang Organized Crime. Co-authored with Duncan McNabb, History Investigations, The Lost Diggers and Lost Tommies, detailing the discovery of a lost cache of photographs of Australian and Allied soldiers from World War I, as well as a biography from Australia's first World War official historian, Charles Bean. If people really knew that in 2015, that book won Australia's prestigious literature award, the Prime Minister's Literary Award as well. And this is all him digging into the history of where he's from. So you can tell the guy is valid in his research. All right. But it seems like his attention has been focused elsewhere these days. Like I said, too many people are seeing weird things in the skies post 2012. Hey, you connect the dots if you want to. So he was recently on the Theories of Everything podcast with Curt Jaimungal. Shout out to that podcast. I'll have a link in the description of this episode below. We're going to be reviewing some key points made on this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, because it's important. And this is proof that very real realms of science are taking this whole topic very seriously. This is no longer taboo. And if it is, I feel bad because, you know, this is such a fascinating thing to become aware of. The idea that we have technology that before even this year, we probably thought was fantasy. Like it was impossible. And now some of the basic theory is so simplified for the public to receive. It's like, how didn't we get this before? So let's jump straight to it. This is Ross Coultharts on Theories of Everything podcast. Now, he says the same thing that I'm saying. The government is telling us one side to this. I think they're easing everybody into the subject, and I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do, because it'll create the idea that this is what this is. And what this is we don't know yet. It could be anything.
And why certain things, certain technologies, certain potential weaponries, certain capabilities are being kept confidential. What I do find increasingly bewildering is the reluctance of mainstream media to acknowledge a growing reality. I've just this morning read a stupid piece written by a columnist in my national newspaper in Australia, the Australian newspaper. And it's a column entitled "Space Aliens Are Everywhere. Oh, wait." And essentially it's a piss take. It's an attack on so-called conspiracists who've said that the Pentagon knows all about UFOs, but have withheld it from the president and the Congress, preferring to exploit the non-human technology. And essentially it's a piss take. It's a laugh at the whole idea, the whole concept that there might be some veracity to this. And the thing that really shocks me is, I guess I'm lucky because I've been talking to people now for several years who have a knowledge of this program. I'm in no doubt it exists. And people can call me a tinfoil hat crazy as much as they like.
Don't worry, we're all tinfoil hat crazies, right? I mean, I've been talking about this stuff since college, and yeah, hey, at least the people in college love this stuff, though. It's the young minds that gravitated to it, and that curiosity kept the conversations going, man. I don't know where people lose that throughout life. I think it's special if you have that imagination and that curiosity, because you actually may be right.
But the simple fact is it's real, and it's slowly but surely dribbling out. I've spoken to senators and representatives in the Congress and staffers who've told me that they have been in the room when credible witnesses have given evidence, multiple witnesses have given evidence about retrieved non-human technology. So, my friend, the only question in my mind, and I'm very, very skeptical in light of the ridiculous blowback from even people in the UFO UAP community who should know better, shills for the Pentagon, people who are conspiring in the cover-up. There is a real problem at the moment in getting mainstream media engagement on this.
I'm glad he made this point. And I've been saying this to Max. I've been saying this to other people. They're fascinated with the new age attempt at this disclosure. You know, you're seeing more History Channel TV shows discussing ancient aliens and their connection to our current reality and our past. Now, what these TV shows have in common is it tries to portray a very specific anomaly. These metallic craft coming down, sometimes with the same type of beings, these grays, and that they're doing this and that. Okay, you can have that idea as the mainstream narrative available for all of the public, hosted on cable TV. Now it's even free if you have the app, so everybody can really access that information. But if you look at information from other types of entertainment, the science behind the attempts to bring to life some of these ideas of interstellar space travel and the craft that allow people to do so, these guys are putting real science, real effort into making this a reality in a sense. You know, it's not just for visual purposes that these movies are just so graphic in their attempts to portray some of this stuff. Now, go back to History Channel. I say this all the time because people are fascinated with this show. Even I'm fascinated with this show, Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, where the government is working with researchers to basically create some type of statistic bank of an anomaly that is really hovering over Skinwalker Ranch. If you've ever seen the movie Nope, kind of like that. There's something there that LiDAR is picking up, radio frequency readers are picking up. Things are appearing and disappearing on this ranch. People are being, I guess you can say, attacked on this ranch by whatever this anomaly is. Too much proof is in the pudding in this case. But what more and more people are starting to notice about, I would say, the star of the show, who is a government researcher, he kept his identity secret from his teammates for the first 3 seasons. He didn't tell them that he was contracted by the government. So when they found out, they were pretty upset. You can tell that they were pretty upset because they're like, all right, what's really going on? And I think that's our first hint that we shouldn't be all too gung-ho about what the government's saying about this phenomenon, because they're already approaching it in the shadows. Does that make sense? Like, this guy Travis, he makes such a big deal about this 1.6 gigahertz reading on this show, and it's fascinating for so many people. Like, oh my God, this is an anomaly. This is an anomaly. But then when real physicists comment on the show's progress, they say, well, that's nothing special. I mean, satellites use that, and it appears, and they'll show a clip of the show where there is some type of manipulation going on. And the only person that would kind of be aware of stuff like that, at least have the knowledge in its respective field to really say, like, yeah, I know I'm doing this, is Travis. So I think that they are studying Skinwalker Ranch, but they're fooling the public that's watching the show and looking for answers. And that's just another way of like a false disclosure. Like, it's just not going to go anywhere, right? So here we have Ross Coulthart. Basically, he's not pointing out specific shows or anything, but he's warning us, saying, hey, listen, I wouldn't trust everything out there. And I just can't help but recognize that fact in some of the shows that are getting more and more popular that I also watch. It makes no sense. It's like they're deceiving us. And then when you watch the end of any History Channel show on the subject, it's by Prometheus Entertainment. I mean, who was Prometheus, right? For those of you who don't know who Prometheus is, he was a Titan. Prometheus in Greek mythology is portrayed as a god of fire. Prometheus is best known for defying the Olympian gods by stealing fire from them and giving it to humanity in the form of technology, knowledge, and more. Who does that sound like to the underworld? You know what I mean? The light bearer kind of story. Interesting. So this archetype is shared across cultures. Just so happens to be the name of this entertainment company producing all of these shows about ancient aliens, the secret society knowledge, mystery knowledge, and apparently twisting some of the details in this new disclosure project, or this new disclosure effort, I should say. I don't know, man. Just some stuff that if you really knew, if you heard of it, if you looked into it in the past and you hear about it now, it's like, sounds a little different than the information I originally got. And how come everyone else is talking about something different? Coulthart exposes it as best as he can. That's the thing. He has so many sources, he just can't throw that stuff out there. That stuff basically is sacred. You know, you want to keep those guys safe. They have jobs. If you want to get to the bottom of this, you need them. So the question is like, why does the media do this? What's the point of them changing the subject or twisting the angle a little bit? Let's see what he has to say about it.
Name, is it Karine Jean-Pierre, the presidential spokeswoman? Lovely woman, but she was asked the other day about the claims made by Mr. Grush, and she just deferred it. She just ducked past it to the Pentagon and said, you'll have to ask the Pentagon about that. Why is it satisfactory for the White House press corps, supposedly the elite of media in the world, to allow the presidential spokesperson to duck a question that is absolutely fundamental, when a very senior intelligence operative recently resigned, has come forward saying all these incredible things? They may well be incredible.
Coulthart is discussing the recent whistleblower that we covered last episode, David Grush, the intelligence whistleblower who made it known that we actually do have a UFO retrieval program, that most of the government, if not 99% of the government, is not read in on. Interesting, right? Sounds like there's some deceitful things happening in this disclosure effort.
May very well be ontologically shocking to people. But why is the media not doing its job and asking the question? Why did the White House press corps, when that question was asked, just let the presidential spokeswoman duck it and say, oh, you'll have to ask the Pentagon about that? Because what the Pentagon then does is it says AARO, which is the Pentagon's UFO investigation office, has no credible evidence to support, the existence of extraterrestrial presence on planet Earth or something like that. And that's not an answer. The Pentagon is confining its answers to AARO. And AARO is heavily constrained in where it's allowed to look and what it's allowed to do, because it doesn't have the security clearances it needs to make the investigations it needs to be able to do into special access programs that are concealing, allegedly, these hidden programs. And so you've got this catch-all where the public is being fed a line, and where you see, columns like this in my national newspaper, which are just spurious nonsense, where they essentially, without any justification, they make a claim that it's all a conspiracy theory. And they don't look at the fact that the Pentagon is saying, gee, we think this is serious enough to put in legislation reference to technology of non-Earth origin. Gee, as journalists, maybe we should ask the question, why is the Pentagon being asked, or why are Private Aerospace being asked to reveal if they have items of non-Earth origin if there's nothing to this? Why is it good enough? I mean,
now I want to go back. I specifically remember an aerospace lead scientist. I believe he made the claim that we already had the technology to bring ET home. Yeah. Ben Rich of Lockheed Martin. In the summer of 1972, Ben Rich, one of the most seasoned engineers in Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division, stood nervously outside the office of his boss, the legendary Clarence Kelly Johnson. In the 18 years since Johnson recruited Rich to join Skunk Works, the two men had developed a unique, almost father-like relationship. Rich had helped his mentor shore up the thermodynamic and propulsion issues with some of Johnson's most famous creations, including the F-104 Interceptor and the SR-71 Blackbird. And in return, Johnson had taken Rich under his wing, letting him tag along to meetings with military officials. Rich had come to tell Johnson that he'd been offered a new position at a rival airplane manufacturer. Kelly listened, shook his head, and then offered up a secret of his own. Johnson told his protege that in 3 years he would be retiring. And when he did, he planned to personally recommend Rich to take over as director of Skunk Works, the most prestigious engineering post in the history of aviation. Rich stayed, and Johnson delivered on his promise, helping his protege win the post he not only desired, but Rich deserved. This man is coined with saying, we already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects, and it would take an act of God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. We now have the technology to take ET back home. This was in a engineering alumni speech from UCLA, March 23rd, 1993. We know how to travel to the stars. There is an error in the equations, and we have figured it out, and now know how to travel to the stars, and it won't take a lifetime to do it. It is time to end all secrecy on this, as it no longer poses a national security threat, and make the technology available for use in the private sector. There are many in the intelligence community who would like to see this stay in the black and not see the light of day. Jim, we have things out in the desert that are 50 years beyond what you could possibly comprehend. If you have seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it was not worth the effort. Wow. So you're saying that movies like Encounters of the Third Kind are real? where directors were literally tossed information by the government, these black programs, said, here's the science behind it. Show the people. See, in the world of mystery, there's this belief that karma can be dodged. That's right. That's what these secret societies practice. Is how to create output, real world result by unorthodox means, and how to avoid that possibly negative energy being returned back to you. These are the laws of karma. And it is said that the Illuminati, the ones in control of the world that practice these sciences and unorthodox mystery science, this magic, if you will, they try to provide the information about future plans through entertainment and media with a twist. Some will get it, some won't. But because they let you know, they're avoiding the karmic return. You believe what you want to believe in that one. I mean, I have a hard time coming to grips with all that. But this is along the lines of what these people feel. So with that said, could they have been putting this in movies the entire time? I mean, I touch on all the Disney movies. Think about it. I mean, if you're into conspiracies, Disney movies host a lot of stuff, okay? But recently, there's been this push of just space travel, superheroes, genetic modification, universal energy sources, okay? These movies host that kind of stuff. Is there a reason behind that? Could be, Star Trek, Star Wars. Apparently, we can already do that. We've been there, done that, or decided it was not worth the effort. These are all statements from a lead engineer, Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. Coultharts not making this stuff up, guys. Conspiracy theorists are what you would like to stereotypically call a conspiracy theorist. If they've been talking about this for a while, they've been saying this stuff for a while. Here we have private corporations that are contracted to retrieve down craft and the technology coming from them. Yet those companies have complete ownership and therefore reserve secrecy. Now, this new legislation that's being brought forth that Coulthart is talking about, why do you think that is? Why the message is that, hey, you can keep the technology, but you have to let the public know after so long. Okay. Well, maybe they've already had the technology and they've been using it for decades. Maybe that's these companies, a lot of these UFOs, these metallic saucers, these physical craft, maybe it's us. But why isn't the Disclosure Project talking about the non-physical stuff that they're observing, the orbs, the transparent things, the things that are phasing in and out of basically reality or time? We don't know yet. We just see it and then it's gone. Why aren't we talking about that, Prometheus Entertainment? I don't know. Could it be that the disclosure effort is focused on the youth and providing the feel-good movies, superhero movies, and leaking bits and pieces of real information as it pertains to technology and capability behind our governments? And then the real information is being leaked or provided through podcasts, which the public still really isn't into yet. A lot of people are into podcasts, but it's more for the people seeking some type of knowledge and or escape. There's really two polarizing aspects to it. Either you want some real information, you want to know what's up because you don't trust legacy media, or you're treating the podcast platform like, all right, well, this is my little escape while I'm at work. I pop the headphones in. How do you appeal to everyone? I guess that takes unlimited money and resources to make it appealing for everyone, i.e. Disney movies. That's why everybody from the basic father who brings his kids to the movies to see it, to the conspiracy theorists who were like, man, did you see that? Why is Doctor Strange throwing up all these weird symbols? Huh? Why does these weird symbols look so familiar? Every time I saw that symbol, it meant X, Y, and Z. That's weird. You know, that's the power of the media. They can do that, especially when all the producers and people making this piece happen study this stuff. It's all connected. So Coulthart ended up saying some very crucial things here in this podcast. He's basically letting us know about these companies. People like Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman. And could one of them even be trying to sell a craft that they have? Why, though? Why would you get rid of that? Is it because you know everything? I think you might find the answer interesting.
How much I know. I am told that right at this very moment, there is a major private aerospace company that is trying to divest itself of a craft. It has approached another company expressing interest in selling that technology to them. And the reason why? I suspect it's because they've known this legislation is coming. That's what's going on here. You know, you have private aerospace companies that are actively involved in trying to subvert the intention of Congress. Now, roll your eyes. I don't care. The simple fact is there are people who are telling me this from within the legacy program who are very concerned that there is an active attempt underway to hide technology from the Congress. And there's another issue here. Another issue is if a private aerospace company has been involved in a retrieval, as I understand they have been, by law, it's their property. Sure, they may have to reveal it to the Congress, but by law, there's a very, very good argument that they are under no obligation to reveal, to hand over that technology or to give the knowledge to the government. And that's because there's actually a law called the Law of Ownership and Control of Meteorites. And essentially, there are provisions in international law that mean that it's not just meteorites. Essentially, if you come into possession of something and you've spent the money on recovering it yourself, it's an incentive for people to develop the technology that might arise from that recovery, that they enjoy the private ownership of that material. So one of the issues that we have behind all of this is, let's assume, hypothetically, that there are private aerospace companies that have been sitting on technology for 50, 60, 70 years. In the first category, let's say Roswell happened in 1947, and let's say around about 1950 or so, or perhaps in the 1970s, the Roswell craft was passed on to a private aerospace company. What happens then if they've had possession of that object for 50, 60 years? Does the US government really have a claim on that technology? In law, there's a question mark. And what if, as I noticed somebody was recently asserting just in the last 24 hours on Twitter, what if, say, technology from recoveries in the US has been moved extraterritorially into Canada? Oh, gee, that's interesting. What if Canada was secretly in possession of retrieved technology that is owned by a US aerospace company and being worked on by, say, Canadian government scientists in collaboration with US scientists? What's the law on that? Does the US Congress have extraterritorial control over that technology? Interesting question. And then separately from that, another loophole that you could drive a truck through here is, what if those private aerospace companies have recovered that technology using private military contractors, as I understand it has very much been the case in the last few years? What if it's been entirely recovered by those private aerospace companies, perhaps in collaboration with the US government, but they've spent all the money and all the resources on doing that? Shouldn't they ought properly to have the rights to that technology?
Listening to that, it makes me think of Samuel Jackson. Makes me think of Shield and what's the character? Nick Fury. That's who it is. Nick Fury and Shield, right? The private military contractor created as an arm of created from an arm of the U.S. military private research sector that created Captain America, a genetically modified super soldier, leading to the Avengers, which segues into interstellar space travel and the problems coming with it in the entry to a new age. I mean, maybe my mind is just saying too much. I get weird like that. But it's okay. It's okay because Coulthart confirms it, ladies and gentlemen. We're not all spooks here. Some of us see the connection from what entertainment and media is telling us in either disinformation and or real disclosure. Let's check it out.
Deliberately disinformed by the Pentagon and by the intelligence community, that there's been an active disinformation, that frankly our media and our movies and our TV shows have been manipulated. Literally, you've had people from the intelligence and military coming in and actually controlling and dictating by regulating access to military resources how movies are told.
Explain about that, please.
Oh, sure. For example, my co-host of my podcast, Need to Know, Bryce Zabel. Bryce is an illustrious Hollywood screenwriter and producer, and he made a TV series that was very much the precursor to X-Files called Dark Skies. And in Dark Skies, it tells the story of alien beings secretly operating at the time of JFK, infiltrating the US government. And it's,
oh my God, infiltrating the US government. Where have we heard that? It couldn't be the reptilians. Could it be the Illuminati? Or could it be the Skrulls from comic books? Another Nick Fury issue, right? Another Avengers issue. Why is this theme shared so much? I don't know.
it's a science fiction story.
Yeah.
And he postulates that JFK was murdered because of his attempts to bring this out into the open, the fact of a secret alien presence on planet Earth. Now, that's fiction. And in one of the sequences, the aliens possess humans by quite frighteningly emitting a ganglion from their mouth and literally putting it inside a human being.
Sounds like Alien. Yeah. Sigourney Weaver type stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do these things that we associate aliens with shared? Like, is there no imagination anymore? Or could it be the government saying, no, if you're going to do that, hold this. There's a little information, man. Let me break you off. Put that in there. Yeah. Put that in there. That's going to work. I mean, we already, we know what Hollywood is, right? We already know what Hollywood. We already know who runs Hollywood, right? These Illuminati husks. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, man. I mean, a lot of us are distracted from everyday life. I get it. It's hard out here. Kia boys running rampant. Seems like our crime rates are skyrocketing. Financial markets hurting. You know, the fear of a World War III still lingers. Yeah, Russia and Ukraine are still going at it. Technology being used in that war is amping up, scaling up. We're starting to send over more advanced systems. I mean, how much of that can you do before there's boots on the ground? There's a lot of distractions out here, a lot of real world things to be paying attention to while this stuff is going on. I specifically have been saying that, you know, maybe we shouldn't trust Big Brother in all this. And I try to provide you guys with as much of the information I receive that form that realization so that hopefully you can make up your own mind, or it'll spark some type of interest so that you can find your own answer. But I advise everybody, you should really check out the Theories of Everything podcast with Curt Jaimungal. You should do a little digging into Ross Coultharts too. This is all pertaining to the recent UFO disclosure efforts by the U.S. government and their new, I guess you would call it AARO team that is to, I guess, record this phenomenon and then provide that information to the public. Will that actually happen, ladies and gentlemen? We can only wait and see. But you better believe I'll be here for it. And you can always search YEARTPOD on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Samsung Podcast. That's YEARTPOD. I'm your host, Vince. This was a lot to take in. And this isn't even like, this isn't really like even going that crazy into it. I mean, because this stuff is connected to Hillary Clinton emails that were leaked. I mean, the Hillary Clinton emails, for example, I'll just go off on this tangent real quick. They validate the claims made within recent disclosure efforts. Confirmed intelligence that she planned. It's confirmed intelligence that she planned on being a major disclosure president. Big business, though, saw otherwise. I find that interesting. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, because if big business was interested in keeping Hillary Clinton down in the election because she actually planned on being disclosure, they found another big business man to win that presidency. And Donald Trump just so happens to be the very one who snuck this legislation into the COVID bill that jump-started this whole thing. And as we already see, this disclosure effort on behalf of the U.S. government seems to be a little disinformative. That's why the podcast realm is taking over with hosting investigative journalists. But this was all leaked in Hillary Clinton's emails. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, if that's true, if that came out of the Hillary Clinton emails, what about the laptop, Podesta's laptop? What about that? I'm sure we'll talk about that on later episodes because that's crazy. But there is some validity in this. You can find the Larry Maguire letter that was leaked in that email cache. And boy, oh boy, he's talking about UFOs. I mean, he's letting National Defense of Canada, the Minister of the National Defense of Canada, Anita Anand, hey, there's something going on here. I'll actually read that for you. It says, Dear Minister Anand, it has come to my attention through meetings with American officials that the United States Senate Select Committee of Intelligence and Senate Committee of Armed Services have been undertaking in-camera hearings with government and military subject matter experts on the recovery and exploitation of physical material from unidentified aerial phenomena. I am concerned that expected upcoming public announcements will be coordinated between AUKUS, which could damage Canada's credibility with our allies and Canadian public on the global stage. There's an opportunity to have a prepared communication plan in place by May 2023 to reduce this risk. Didn't that happen? As Minister of National Defense, you may not be aware, Defense Research and Development Canada has participated in efforts to analyze UAP, which is publicly traceable to circa 1950. Sounds like a little Roswell, if you ask me. Sounds like what Coulthart just said, right? What if U.S. had stuff in Canada? This recovered foreign material is studied through the Five Eyes Foreign Material Program, which in Canada is sponsored by the Canadian Forces Intelligence Command, aligned with several intelligence sharing arrangements and treaties. I am writing to recommend you request a classified briefing containing full, sensitive, and protected program information from your officials on the Government of Canada's historical and ongoing efforts on analyzing recovered UAP material. Now, a little segue here. The Five Eyes are countries written to include the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So those are the Five Eyes. Canada's chief science advisor has also launched the Sky Canada project, which is investigating how the government of Canada manages UAP reports. They are in the process of identifying key Canadian stakeholder institutions It is essential that the chief science advisor be given full access to defense programs and be briefed on the collaborative scientific research effort with our allies. It is imperative the government of Canada have a communications plan to respond to these upcoming public revelations that will stem from these American FMPS. All right. That's the Five Eyes Foreign Material Program. Not only are there national security and aviation safety concerns that need to be addressed, but there will also be a larger debate on why there is a lack of transparency and accountability regarding UAP programs and policy. I also believe there must be parliamentary oversight of efforts by government institutions, and responsible ministers should be fully briefed on this program, including releasable to the public content that aligns with allied public disclosures. It is incumbent your department inform you of what collaborative efforts have occurred with our allies and the details of existing agreements and memorandums of understanding that govern the program and may have been coordinated through global affairs. Canada's credibility with our allies and Canadian public must transcend politics, and I firmly believe we can work together in a bipartisan manner. Regardless of the classified details of specific FMPS, the public revelations by the subject matter experts who have testified before Congress present an opportunity for the government of Canada to take a visible leadership role in confirming the existence of recovered material and balancing our national security obligations. I look forward to your response, and if you seek any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me directly. Sincerely, signed, Larry McGuire. He's basically just validated everything that was coming this past and happened this past May. So come on now. There's some truth in what was provided. So I'll end it on that note. You guys should really be paying a little more attention to this. I mean, it isn't just some TikTok conspiracy videos, right? This stuff is actually happening. There's a real effort here. But I think the magic is in trying to decipher it all, right? Because it's all connected. And why now? This is a wild ride, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you stick along with me on this one. Go ahead and type it in, like, subscribe, share, YEARTPOD. It's only getting better and better. Hopefully we start finding some answers soon, right? Again, I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your weekend. You guys have a good night. Peace.
Show 'em what up, man.